Yeah. Okay, great. So we are online. नमस्कार, मेरा नाम राकेश रोशन भट्ट है और आज हम फिर से इस द राइट कॉन्वर्सेशंस नामक प्रोग्राम के इस अंक में हैं, जहाँ पे हमने फिर से डॉक्टर विजय सजावाल जी को आमंत्रण दिया है हमारे साथ बातचीत करने का। ये हमें फिर से पार्ट 2 करना पड़ा इंटरव्यू का उनके साथ पब्लिक डिमांड पे। हमारे जो पहले पार्ट में आपने देखा होगा कि डॉक्टर साहब ने काफ़ी सारे इनसाइट्स शेयर किए कश्मीर को लेके, उनके कश्मीर के तजुर्बे को लेके और उसकी वजह से लोगों में काफ़ी सारी जागरूकता आई। बहुत सारे ऐसे पर्सपेक्टिव सामने आए जो कि शायद लोगों को पता नहीं थे। और उसी वजह से काफ़ी लोगों ने हमसे डिमांड की, हम हमें कॉल किए, हमें मेल्स लिखे कि हम चाहते हैं कि हम भी डॉक्टर साहब को कुछ सवाल पूछें। हमारे पास काफ़ी सारे ऑफलाइन क्वेश्चन आए, तो हमने सोचा कि हम एक और अंक करते हैं इस कॉन्वर्सेशन का उनके साथ और उनसे डायरेक्टली सवाल पूछते हैं। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा हमारे देखने वालों को कि जैसे ये बातचीत आगे बढ़ती जाएगी, वो हमारे फेसबुक पेज के कमेंट सेक्शन में अपने क्वेश्चंस पोस्ट करें। हम जैसे-जैसे डॉक्टर साहब से सवाल पूछते जाएँगे और वो आंसर्स देते जाएँगे, हम बाकी के क्वेश्चंस भी पिकअप करते रहेंगे। मैं फिर से एक बार ये दोहराना चाहूँगा, आप सब लोग डॉक्टर साहब को जानते हैं, बट मैं फिर से ये कहना चाहूँगा कि अगर आपकी रुचि है कश्मीर की ग्राउंड सिचुएशन को समझने में, अगर आप कश्मीर को लेकर जानकारी रखते हैं या आप फॉलो करते हैं न्यूज़ को या आपको एग्ज़ैक्ट एनालिसिस जो करेक्ट एनालिसिस है सिचुएशन का वो समझ रुचि है, तो आप इस इंटरव्यू को मिस आप हमारे साथ जुड़े रहिए और उन तक अपनी बात पहुँचाने के लिए, उन तक अपने क्वेश्चन पहुँचाने के लिए, जैसे कि मैंने आपको बोला, एक ही ज़रिया है, आपको कमेंट सेक्शन में आपके कमेंट्स ड्रॉप करने पड़ेंगे। हम थोड़ी देर के लिए फिर से वेट करते हैं, मे बी अनदर मिनट। तब तक हम डॉक्टर साहब से थोड़ी बातचीत करेंगे और फिर हम क्वेश्चंस का सिलसिला शुरू करेंगे। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँगा अगर आप हमें देख रहे हैं तो आप इस प्रोग्राम को शेयर कीजिए अपने सोशल ग्रुप्स पे, व्हाट्सएप पे, फेसबुक पे, ताकि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा लोग हमारे साथ जुड़ें। तब तक हम अपनी बातचीत चालू करते हैं डॉक्टर साहब से। डॉक्टर साहब, सबसे पहले आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत, फिर से समय निकालने के लिए, हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you. Namaskar. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So, Dr. Saab, in your last conversation with Rohit, you talked about a lot of interesting aspects in Kashmir, and then we had a lot of questions also. Uh, so, I mean, in general, before we get to questions, I wanted to, I'm out of curiosity, I want to understand, just to know a little bit about your roots. I mean, where are you originally from in Kashmir? Which place and how long have you been
Sure.
in Kashmir in the past? And then when did you move to US?
Yeah. Uh, Again, मैं बुझा माफी सारनी बाक कशर पढ़ते कात करे तो बाक हिंदी पढ़ते कात करे बाक अंग्रेजी पढ़ते कात करे but बुझा अंग्रेजी पढ़ते कात करा I'm keen क्योंकि I'm such delivery is faster, so that is what the language I am using. Before Rakesh, before I answer your question, which I will gladly do so, I have to say two things. One is I also and people began to say like we liked your part A, but part B was different than what I know. You like part C, but we didn't like part D. So people have to understand I am not a politician. I am not a political leader. I am not bound by saying things which are politically correct or appropriate or inappropriate. I am not anti BJP. I am not anti Congress. I am not anti NC. I am not anti anything. I'm pro PKP. That's my main criteria. So things of as an analyst. I'm an analyst. That's how I introduced myself last time. What is an analyst? Analyst basically looks surgically at a data. I have no bias. I don't come with a bias. I come with the data, and the data I usually collect either from reliable people that I know are credible, or from official documents. I have no Facebook account. I have no Instagram account. I have no Twitter account. I don't believe in social media personally, because I don't think that's, because I think analysts get contaminated by that kind of thing. So to keep the purity of my analyst imagination, I simply have to trust the data sources that I am used to. Usually, if one person or one source gives me a data, I usually can, from a reliable, credible source, I usually say its accuracy is about 50%. If two sources tell me the same thing, its accuracy goes up to about 75%. And if three sources tell me again the same thing, then its the accuracy is really around 95%. It's only 100% when I'm personally an eyewitness to it. If I'm not an eyewitness to it, it cannot be 100%. And
Sure.
what I have presented last time and what I will discuss today is based on the data analysis, which is somewhere between 70% and 90%. So
Sure.
it's that accuracy is between 75%, and so I can't say it's 100% accurate, but I know for certain it's not wrong either. So there may be variations somewhere. So people have to understand. I cannot say, this point I liked you at this point, but I didn't like you at this point. No, that is how the mosaic of the information is. So you have to either accept it all, or you have to say, I don't trust this analyst, and I'm not going to listen to him. Well, it comes in, it's basically one whole block. It's not part A, part B. The
Sure.
second thing I wanted to say is one of the interesting inputs in the last visit that I had, which I didn't have before, was I did get an interaction with Army. And Indian Army, without question, I'm going to tell you that is the bias I have. If I have a bias, it is towards Indian Army. I have a great respect and regard for them, and because they have, and not just in a matter of how they are defending J&K, but in overall, the quality of their caliber is really outstanding. And to me personally, one of the most interesting, like, actually, I think there are two interesting moments in that lecture, in my visit. One interesting moment was when I received actually a flag, which was given to me by I don't know if you can see it, by Major General Vishwas Rao, uh, by Major General Vishwas Rao. Uh, this is the picture of that event. Who
Right.
is the general officer commanding for the Srinagar subdivision of the Chinar Corps, and
Sure.
and this is the flag that he basically gave it to me. So that was actually, in my point of view, a highlight of the visit. And so it is, it is very interesting, because somebody asked me, "Did you actually go to did you actually go to Srinagar, or are you just making it up?" Okay, here is me uh, at the at the Lal Chowk Gantagar. So so anyway, so uh, uh, Rakesh, I was born in Srinagar. I was born in actually Badiyar, Srinagar. Badiyar may not be familiar to some people, but it's next to the Yar is next to the Ganpat Yar. So Ganpat Yar was our, sort of a family temple, and from there we moved to Wazirbagh. So I had my education at the Bisku Memorial High School. I went to Amar Singh College, and even though I was in a one of the top 20 students, when I applied to the regional engineering college, I was denied admission. Um, and I still vividly remember, this is the year is 1962. And when I asked for a reason, registrar told me, "Son, you can be, you are so smart, you can get a job and you can get a position anywhere. I mean, you can get a college admission anywhere in India. Leave these places for admission to the people around here who are not as smart as you are." Didn't realize it at that time, but that was ethnic cleansing. So we're talking about ethnic cleansing going all the way even back to the 60s, in the good days of Bakshi Sahab and all that. So I'm just saying that because that's how I left the place for higher studies. May be appropriate to point out that I'm very senior to LG Saab in the same college. If I would have been around there when he would have joined, I would probably ragged him. But that's the college that's the college I graduated from in India. Then I went to United States. I have been in the United States for over 50 years. So a lot of people who are watching it probably aren't to that age yet, as much as the time I have spent there. But we got absorbed in obviously in Kashmir and Kashmir only in after 1989. I mean, I would make visits before too, but they were like, they were visits to the family. But after 89, 90, those visits had a different dimension.
So your
My
parents continued to stay in Kashmir after
Yes,
you left the
my
US?
parents continued to stay in Kashmir until 27th of July 1990. My father was retired. He was a small businessman. He was retired.
Okay.
He didn't want to leave. Quite frankly, I told him. He used to come to United States every a couple of years. I told him, come on over. My mother and him, and they said, no, no, no. There's, I don't think I'm a risk because I am not a government employee, or I'm not in service. I'm basically by myself. But there was a time when basically a couple of boys from the neighborhood, grocers' sons, came and said, you will pay zajia. I mean, you'll pay protection money to us. Otherwise, you leave. So he was so shaken up. Basically, he left, as we say, that proverbial, whatever he could cram in his ambassador car, and had somebody bring a truck and take the rest of the stuff up. But the fact of the matter is, there is no record of my childhood anywhere because my childhood was all in that house. And
Right.
I got married in that house. I've been married for over 50 years now, and everything was there because we left right after our marriage, and so literally we had barnims and khandrik bane vagara chasan, toasters vagara, everything was there. So there was a lot of memory there. My grandchildren have not seen a picture of me from my childhood because all of those were things were. Subsequently, our house was burnt and looted, and then eventually, LIC gave us some money, and then other family members wanted to sell the place, so we sold it. And somebody has made a sort of a clinic, ugly looking clinic there now, and it's so unfortunate, but that's the nature of this beast. And but my interactions with the community there, quite frankly, have been for the last 25 years. I have gone back and forth frequently, and in fact, I've been in touch with people there, both Kashmiri Pandit and Kashmiri Muslims, for the last over 2 decades.
Okay. थैंक यू डॉक्टर साहब ये हमारे साथ शेयर करने के लिए सो दिस इज अ इंटरेस्टिंग पीस ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन बिकॉज योर पेरेंट्स लिव्ड देयर इवन दो यू left much early but they saw that phase and they had to also leave like other KPs left the valley so डॉक्टर साहब there are a lot of people who are joining in and वो कमेंट बॉक्सेस में आपको नमस्कार भेज रहे हैं मैं कुछ लोगों के नाम लेना चाहूँगा थोड़ी इंटरेक्टिव इस पूरी कॉन्वर्सेशन को बनाने के लिए मैं उनके नाम लेना चाहूँगा सुमन जी हैं अशोक रैना जी सरला भट्ट प्राण रैना जी विजय काशकारी राजेंद्र राजदान भरत चल्लू ये सब लोग हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं आपको नमस्कार भेज रहे
Namaskar
हैं
from me also.
सो डॉक्टर साहब कुछ सवाल है हमारे पास दीज क्वेश्चंस हैव कम थ्रू मेल्स व्हाट्सएप सम पीपल हैव कॉल्ड एंड ड्रॉप दीज क्वेश्चंस सो वन क्वेश्चन आई वुड स्टार्ट विद is related to the previous conversation. So somebody has an observation that you minimize the role of Pakistan and jihadis in your talk. Would you like to comment on this?
Yes, certainly. Now remember, I think people forget that I was focused in certain areas. I had focused points of discussion in there. And so the points primarily related to the recent targeted killings of Kashmiris. I didn't dwell on the old killings of Kashmiri Pandits. I developed on the recent ones. And my argument was there that they are all organic killings. They're all motivated killings. They were killings with a purpose. They were not the broad thing where you say kill one and scatter 100 kind of that was not there. There was, I mean, there are different phases of Pakistan's interest in Kashmir. Militancy phase is one of them. Diplomatic phase is one of them. I have challenged them diplomatically at a lot of locations wherever we got an opportunity as an NGO to counterbalance them. And I can say that the organization that I was affiliated with, I'm still affiliated with, but I'm now retired, is Indo-American Kashmir Forum. And one of our biggest, I guess, our biggest success was we did not allow the Pakistani government and its handlers in United States or in Europe to actually bring this thing about as a sort of a non-dimensional war of liberation, azadi, which was what they were trying to do. They were trying to sell that it has nothing to do with religion. It is people's wishes that they want to have azadi, and we were the ones that actually on the world theater we did it. And I will tell you quite frankly, I will challenge anybody with anybody who says he has some other data. We got literally no support from the Indian government at all. I mean, we have documents and documents in newspaper clippings which basically talk about how Indian government at that time. Again, I have to say, those Indian governments, whether they were VP Singh and subsequent people, they all wanted to minimize the religious flavor of this jihad. They wanted to say basically Pakistan is attacking India and Indians are defending it. They didn't want to say there is actually a jihad going on where basically Kashmiri Pandits are being targeted for death. It took us 4 or 5 years before even the U.S. State Department report would actually acknowledge that Kashmiri Pandits had been killed, because A, Indian government wasn't making mention of it. B, Pakistani government had no desire to talk about it. But worse was, as you heard other day, the Indian intellectuals, the Indian NGOs that were supporting the Muslims of Kashmir never ever spoke a word about Kashmiri Pandits. And so you had a situation where most of the reports coming from India were basically all either saying Indian army is playing hardball with Kashmiri people, not Kashmiri separate, but Kashmiri people, and Kashmiri people are in misery, and nobody was talking about Kashmiri Pandits. So we took over the case, and we did it on our own. We obviously could not match the resources of our nemesis on that side, which was Kashmiri American Council, because they were supported by the Pakistani government. But nevertheless, we prevailed, and the fact is that their man eventually ended up going to jail, Ghulam Nabi Fai, as an agent, as a declared agent of Pakistani government, and that, in a sense, was our biggest triumph. Pakistan looms large in my head. Pakistan looms large in my head because I've spent 20, 25 years, whether it was in the British Parliament, whether it was the US Congress, whether it was with the US administration, whether it was at United Nations. We had some wonderful people from the community in United Nations, Professor Panita, myself, Professor Warku, at one time, other people. So we actually created a narrative which said Kashmiri Pandits are the true victims. And in fact, at this time, there's only one Kashmiri Pandit record in the UNHRC secretariat about Kashmiri Pandits, and that piece of paper was actually prepared by the three organizations of which I am now the international coordinator, which is the Indo-American Kashmir Forum, Indo-European Kashmir Forum, and Indo-Canadian Kashmir Forum. These are the three global forums that we created to essentially take on this program. Our activities have reduced considerably, quite honestly, because now we have a government in India, government in Delhi, which is considered to be essentially pro our Kashmiri Pandit position. Now we agree that if we agree that or not agree that, that's immaterial. But the fact is, relatively speaking, it is the best government that we can afford for the future of Kashmiri Pandit. That's why it's very important to build a relationship with them, to understand what their points of view are. You may not agree with their points of view, but you got to know their points of view, because their point of view is what will prevail. It will not be our point of view that will prevail. We have no, as I said in the last meeting, even Amit Shah ji had to admit, we have no political footprint, because we don't do things in India like other constituencies do, like other communities do. Like Kashmiri Pandits simply think that we deserve, because injustice has been done to us. Well, injustice has been done to thousands of people in India, thousands of communities in India. That's not how the system works. But point is, yes, I am. I'm keenly aware of Pakistan's role. I mean, I don't have to tell it to any Kashmiri Pandit, the nefarious, the dirty, and the militant side of they wage. They're so brutal. They waged a war in their own country between themselves. So how can you expect them to be sympathetic to our point of view? They kill each other, as a matter of bombings here and there between Shia, Sunnis, and other communities. So Pakistan's role has not been minimized by me. Pakistan looms large. It's just that the subject matter that I was dealing with, which was the near term targeted killings, really, quite frankly, that subject has no connection with Pakistan. That's an internal, really, the matter between, in my opinion, basically the matter of OGW, the overground workers, and that's a big problem. But we can talk about it a little bit later. Yeah.
So, Dr. Saab, I mean, I know there cannot be a straightforward answer to this, but you know, we have seen in past couple of years the way now government has got a fairly decent grip on the situation. Uh, we've seen now government is having a upper hand the way they have dismantled the networks of underground or overground workers, the terrorists. I mean, uh, but I mean, as an analyst, how do you see this situation? Do you feel that this is a temporary lull, or the situation is moving towards normalcy, or I mean, it will continue? I mean, this is going to be status quo forever. I mean, what is your take? How do you see this whole situation?
Well, the thing is, as long as Pakistan will exist, this problem will not go away. This problem technically will only go away when Pakistan actually agrees to the fact that this problem can be settled or should be settled. They are demanding conditions which are unacceptable to India for good reason, and so I don't see that happening. And of course, a lot of people in India hope Pakistan is going to be dismembered, dismantled, and all that. Well, that's not going to happen either. I can assure you, that's not going to happen. Even big powers will come in and make sure the Pakistan stays together, no matter how much internal warfare or internal instabilities exist here. It's not Pakistan is not going to break up. It's going to stay as is, and Pakistan will, as long as, quite frankly, the military has the upper hand, or well, actually, military has an upper hand, but I would say the jihadi elements are close second. I would say at this time in Pakistan today, it's number one army, number two jihadis, and number three civilians. So Shahbaz and others, I think they are number three. They are not even number two anymore. So it is, and part of the challenge of the Western world is to ensure the army stays number one, since number three, people will never overcome the jihadis. So it's a very interesting game going on, where army will be provided all the weapons and all the machinery, and of course, unfortunately, army obviously uses that also to keep their mission towards the people relevant by using some of that machinery towards India. So the point is, no, the problem is not going to go away as long as Pakistan stays there and Pakistan continues to exist and Pakistan continues to create the problem. But I'll tell you what, that doesn't mean India hasn't capability to match them. I would say at this time they have pretty much Pakistan has pretty much lost the traditional subversion technique of sort of cutting into India's belly, basically creating the problems. They are the I think today it was very interesting. One of the meetings, I didn't mention this in the last one, but one of the meetings Kashmiri Pandits had with Amit Shah, he did mention one of the challenges is to collect the OGWs. He thinks there are probably around 1,000. Maybe he was kind of being sort of a little bit low on the numbers, overground workers, and these are essentially, as I said, these are primarily members in bureaucracy or otherwise, who are very much aligned between the bureaucrats on one end and the militants on the other end. So these are the middlemen in the middle, and he has been kind of pushing the state, quite honestly, to get collect them as quickly as possible. State is dragging its feet. That would be a person like me saying from the outside, but the fact is there may be challenges in terms of what are the legal ways to catch them. How can we do that? So there is a resistance of sorts by both the bureaucracy. I would say, JKAS cadre and JKP cadre, which is basically saying, they're let's put it this way, they are moving slowly. They're not telling Amit Shah we're not going to do it, but they're saying we want to do it slowly. So the number of OGWs that is being caught is trickle, and he actually is pushing very hard. IB has given him a list of about 900. He is pushing very hard to get those 900 folks at the beginning, and I would say out of that 900, probably about 70 have been caught. So you even in their own list, majority of them are still not caught. But the point is, they have understood the game. So that is why Pakistan is not going to succeed on the subversion end of it. Now, so you can ask, well, if they are not going to succeed, what are they doing in counter? Well, what are they doing in counter is two things. They have introduced this concept of both a mole and a hybrid militant. In other words, now OGW himself is getting armed, so he doesn't have to go to a terrorist whom they call militants in Kashmir, but he doesn't have to go there. He can actually be armed, and then he can lock up the his weapon, and then only use it so he doesn't have to go into the jungle, and he doesn't have to have a Facebook page and with AK-47 and all that stuff. So that's one way they are doing it. They're educating them. Don't be flashy. Do it in a discreet manner. The second thing is mole, the concept, and this is where women are coming in the picture. Women are becoming very important to the Pakistani operation. These are obviously the village women, where they are basically getting the shipments of both guns and drugs. So drug is a new entry in the system, and drug is a new entry in the system. A lot of it coming through these flying predators, or whatever their system is, and drop mostly in the more smoother regions of the Jammu region, and then shipped to Kashmir by moles. So we're seeing new techniques being used by Pakistan. But drug thing is a very interesting thing. I don't know what time you want to talk about Kashmiri Muslims, whom I also met, because that was a big discussion with
In
them.
fact, that was going to be my next question, because we are talking about Kashmir and situation in Kashmir. So that is what I was going to ask you next. What is it that you actually sensed on ground when you went, especially in your last visit or your last couple of visits after abolition of Article 370? What is the mood on ground, especially when it comes to Kashmiri Muslims?
Well, okay. So let's first talk about how I got interested in them. In other words, why would they talk to me? Uh,
Correct.
I think that question has to be answered, because there is a genesis of it. There was a bunch of journalists who actually ended up in the United States somewhere around 2002 or 2003, somewhere like that. Who were basically promoted as part of the journalist exchange program between United States and India. And these people were here, and when they were actually, and at that time I was advising the State Department. Actually, people who don't know it, but the fact is, I am at that time I was the only non-India based Kashmir expert who was being consulted, whose consultation was being sought by U.S. government, asking them what is going on in Kashmir, and they had a list, and it was released by WikiLeaks at one time. But anyway, I was the only one from not from not from state or even India, but from Delhi or whatever. But so when the State Department meeting took place, I was in that meeting. So these guys were shocked. They said, "Who is this guy?" They said, "Well, he advises us on Kashmir matters. It's good that you guys ought to meet him." And so they were very subdued. I mean, they certainly first wanted to test if I knew Kashmiri. So we had a conversation in Kashmiri and all that. And then it was very interesting. After that, there was a meeting with a think tank. I still remember it, Stimson Center. Michael Kripon was the chair of that group, that think tank, and they were invited to that one, or they were taken there. I mean, it was a very curated visit, and there they see Vijay Sazawal again. So now they realize that I am somebody that obviously is deeply involved in the U.S. hierarchy. And what was very interesting was one of the person's questions I can't forget, and I have used that example with our community, which is where one of these fellows says to him, "Sir, we have heard in Kashmir that the president of the United States every day asks a question about Kashmir. Is that true?" So that was the question he asked Mike Cooper. God bless him. He's passed away last year. And he told him, let me put it this way. President sees only 20 major international issues a day because he has to get a full depth this thing, and he has only limited time. And I would say, even if he had a list which had got 1,000 items of importance on that, Kashmir would not be one of those. So the guys were really disappointed. They said, well, back home, everybody says United States is always talking about Kashmir. And that's true also of Kashmiri. I talk the same language about Kashmiri Pandits with the Modi government. If Modi gets a list of 50 top issues of the burning issues of the day, I mean, this is a country where, as Naipal said, it's a country of million mutinies a day. Kashmiri Pandit issue is not one of them. It's not even 100th or 200th or 300th or 400th. It's not on that list. So you have to understand there are issues of much more immense importance to the Prime Minister and his immediate Prime Minister's office secretary that he has to deal with. As much as I'm sure he's very sympathetic to us, but he has worse problems with other situations. So anyway, that contact started from there. One of the interesting things, by the way, I invited them for a dinner. And it was funny because they wouldn't touch liquor. So then I told the DC, I told the State Department lady who was their handler while they were on a tour. I said, these guys don't drink. I didn't realize that. She says, what do you mean they don't drink? They drank like fish. Well, there was at our State Department event, they were drinking all the time. But anyway, to me, they were being cautious. They were trying to show they are good Muslims. Of course, I have a good laugh with them now because I meet all of them in the valley. The second event was that there was a professor who came in mass communications, who actually, his name is, I don't mind saying it, his name is Shahid Rasool. Dr. Shahid Rasool came to the US as a Fulbright scholar. And there are not many Kashmiris in general and Kashmiri Muslims in particular that are actually Fulbright scholars. So I told myself,
Right.
I got to make an initiative to reach out to him. And I cultivated a relationship with him. And of course, he became head department of the Kashmir University's Merck, college, and now he's having the same position at the Central University Kashmir in Ganerbal. But those were my initial first contacts: 6 journalists and this one guy. So when I went the first time, these are the 7 Muslims that I met, no more, no less, and then it has grown from there. They suddenly realized I got lawyers, professionals, ladies, men. I got a whole bunch of people there right now. Now, to your question, Rakeshji, I think these are all so-called pro-India people, but there's always this feeling, yeah, we are pro-India, but we are doing a favor to India. That was the attitude. I felt a different attitude this time, which was, yeah, we are pro-India, and we're thankful to India. So it was a reward, and I'll tell you why. And there are still some concerns. Previously, I was always told there are, we don't understand. We are pro India, and we see all these separatists and their families getting benefits and coverages, and here we are hardly getting. We are only getting threats from Muslim, from the jihadis saying that we are Indian agents and this thing, and we have security and this thing and that thing. We have sought security. We have not gotten as good security, but all these. And I used to tell them, well, give me an example. Then they would tell me the examples are, Bita Karate's wife. She has got a job while he is supposed to be a terrorist. Similarly, with other Shabir Shah's, wife runs an Hawari house. I mean, they would go into the specifics of those kind of things where they would see anomalies where government is not doing. One of the most interesting things I think they told me in the past. I asked them, when was it that you guys felt most insecure? Without question, in every section of the segment I went, they said it was when Vajpayee was the prime minister. Surprised me. I said, why? Because he said, because Vajpayee's time, there was this feeling that he was trying to get a deal with Pakistan, where Pakistan would be also a sort of a overseer of the future of Kashmir. He said that scared the pants off us, because now we knew then we would be nailed, because people would left and right report to us that these guys are all bookbirds. They're bookweeds. They're all agents of Indian government, will be killed. So he said. So what happened was a blowback from that period, which continued in Manmohan Singh's period, which is we did our best to not sound like we are pro-India, because we had to save our skins. Because that government of Vajpayee, and if you go back and look at that, Vajpayee had some terrible advisors, starting with Mr. Dullat and company. They were all trying to get him a Nobel Prize, and they thought that that would be possible in his time. Unfortunately, it didn't work like that. But anyway, so when I went last time, which I went right after August 5th, I went a few months after August 5th, 2019. It was very clear cut to them that this government is very convinced that it's not good. There's no if and but. There is no role for Pakistan. They were starting to get much more comfortable with the idea that we can actually come out and be in this. But they still had beefs against how government was still playing. And I kept explaining, this is one of the problems with interagency rivalries between various intelligence agencies. They all pop up their own surrogates at the expense of others. We also know of where they were killing each other's surrogates in the 90s and 2000s, where CRPF had an intelligence person in the community. They would kill him because they wanted the credit to go to the other agency, like MI or something like that, to essentially convey the messages to Delhi. So it's a strange thing, because in a democracy, left hands and right hands usually do not necessarily work the same rhythm as they do in autocracies, where one head, because democracies has multiple heads, multiple arms, so on and so forth. So this time, I felt that issue of Kashmir being not a part of India, that seemed to be settled in their mind. So there was nothing in that mind. They still felt, though, there were games being played. For example, again, I told them, hey, listen, Yusuf Shah's, MUF commander, Yusuf Shah's family has been thrown out. They were all, because they told me they were openly advocating for jihadi council and all that stuff, and yet they were in the government. But government has weeded out a lot of people. So I said, okay, now who is left? It was very interesting. I said, who is left? Well, one of the first biggest complaint was absolutely convinced these are not Kashmiri Pandits, or these are all people, journalistic background and knowledge inside the system, lawyers, knowledge inside the system. And they said, Iltija Mufti, she is a creature of Indian intelligence, that she is basically being propped up by them. Shabir Shah's daughter, she gets a passport within 1 week, lands up in London, and runs an anti-India campaign from there. Okay? Farooq Ahmed Dar, aka, I talked about his wife has now been taken in. But Javed Nalka, Javed Mir, his wife, she is a prosecutor on the government side, working in the valley. I mean, the list goes on. So they see still a lot of anomalies, that there is a lot of politics going on. There's a lot of intelligence. I said, nobody can figure these things out. I mean, this is the game that deep state plays. Deep state has various arms, and they're like like Hindu gods. They play. Excuse me. They play all kinds of games, and these anomalies do exist. And I don't have any better solution except I agree with you. I agree with you. If Javed Nalka's wife is running around as a public prosecutor for the state, I mean that's terrible. And they say it's not just she's directed. They say we will know all her other activities and all that stuff. So what I'm saying is that part is still there. But the fact of the matter is two or three things. One is they have made a lot of money in this year. There's no question about it. The tourists are everywhere, and that has been incredible. It's over a million, over 10 lakh, 10 lakh or more actually, 15 lakh tourists. I mean, that's an immense number. Every section has benefited. So they're all actually now realizing, what it was to have, where, and that's where somebody objected to, said, really was Alisha Jilani that important to the previous governments? Well, I asked those people, tell me, when was his Hartal calendar ever challenged? When did the government actually run the buses or said to the people, you will be fired if you don't show up on the days when Alisha Jilani had his Hartal calendar out? The fact is that part has been dismissed. There is no such thing as a Hartal calendar anymore. Fridays are like any other days. Everything is basically working just like you couldn't. I was every day with Chok and Narwand, and nobody ever cared who I was, what I was, and I had, for the first time in my trips, I had no security this time. I just went, stayed in a hotel, and rented a cab. They charge something to the order of 14,000 thereabouts on a daily basis. And but the point was, because, and he wouldn't stop anywhere because Janam Instalam photo parking, illegal parking where Padmelam Sasan opens ticket. I mean, so but the fact is, it is a changed environment there. And now that's one side of it. The sad part of it is, I also went to some lot of people's homes, Muslims' homes, and they are feeling very, very, very dejected because they have these beautiful houses, beautiful palatial houses, and it's just dad and mom. There's nobody there. They feel like we are basically, chokidar, keeping the place going for their children who aren't there. Their children, grandchildren are either, most of them are not even in India. They are overseas, and that loneliness is excruciating. I mean, you could feel. I went to this fellow who used to be a very senior person before, and a lovely wife, and and she was crying. I mean, she really felt like, I don't know what we are living for, because we. So that was one element. Younger people absolutely worried about drugs. Their young children. I mean, you have to understand, uh, they are lamenting on the violence and crime that is taking place in their society right now. There are dowry deaths. There are deaths due to husbands killing, burning their wives. I mean, there are all those gross stories that you hear. Of course, we also had, unfortunately, in our community, Delhi, sometime like that. But here there are so many of them. Other day, a boy, just 2 days before I left, a boy had gone to his mother and said, "Megasan zasas rupi, I need 2,000 rupees so that I can buy some drugs." And mother said, "No, I'm not going to give it." He goes outside, grabs his friend from 2, 3 houses away, brings him back. He tells that friend, hold my mother by the son, takes a seer and hits the mother on the head with a brick and kills her, and makes it look like she fell from the slab, because once makan udi huni slab throw with makan, they have poured the slab. He wanted to make the story that mother fell, she had gone up to the slab and she fell from the slab. from the slab. So he tried to, so here is a boy who has 16 years old or thereabouts, who has killed his mother for 2,000 rupees. I mean, it is ingraining in their house how this drug trade and drug business is destroying us. So their worry today is their
Yeah.
priorities have changed. Priorities are
No, in
changed.
fact,
They are
not
not.
only drugs, I mean, they have been in this environment for now 30 odd years. I mean, the pressure, the stress, the bloodshed. I mean,
Well,
if we have
yeah.
see
If
that
you
side of the story
Rakesh,
also,
if
I
you
mean, they
yeah,
so
but I will
I
tell
mean,
you,
it plays on the psyche. I mean, the way they have the kind of situation they have, been brought up. So it plays, in some way.
no, drug trade is very interesting because even if you go to, I stopped that blog, but I have a blog there on my website, which used to record these things, and the drugs have been prevalent there for last 22, 24 years. But I think they were not thinking that it is going to touch the elite class.
Correct.
And what we are seeing now is it's touching the elite class. Now that is why it's
Yeah.
causing concern. When it was
Correct.
basically, at the lower end, it was one thing, but now it is really. And last time when I was there, I didn't see anybody now, but last time when I was there, a lot of people sort of lying on in a coma type state along Boulevard, just finished with because they were all on drugs, and people just walking around them and just curiously looking at them and moving on. I didn't see. Well, I didn't actually do them as much walking this time, so I couldn't see any of them. But the fact is, yes, drug trade has gone up quite a
Yeah.
bit, and that's a big problem. Property deaths, I tell you, they are having property deaths themselves, and property issues on particularly Ladai.
Correct.
And it's funny because a lot of them are on that jungle. Remember, the neighbors would move the fence 1 foot here or 1 foot there, and they would be having fights on that. And
Correct.
and but nowadays, because the guns are freely available, all they have to do is make a call to somebody. So they have the same problem. I mean, they are also
Correct.
arranging targeted killings between their
Correct.
neighbors and stuff like that.
Correct. So, Dr. Saab, let's now talk about Kashmiri Pandits. So, there are, I mean, three sets of uh, Kashmiri Pandits here. One is the Pandits who did not leave Kashmir. The second set is who went back with the PM package. And the third set is which is living in exile. All three sets have different set of problems that they are grappling with, different aspirations. But first, let's talk about the ones who did not leave Kashmir. I mean, you talked a lot about them in the past conversation also. In fact, I have one question from Mr. Vinod Kohl from Badgam. He says we never migrated from Kashmir even during peak of militancy, but unfortunately, from last 1 year, we feel we as Indians in India we are living in some another country. My question is, should we stay in Kashmir? I think this would be the question going on in every pundit's mind who has not left Kashmir. I mean, we know uh, uh, Sanjay Tikuji, who heads Kashmiri Pandit Sangharsh Samiti, he sent an official note to government. I mean, he sent a letter saying we are not safe, and probably there was a communication that we all should leave. That there would be another migration now. So so, is situation that bad on ground? I mean, or uh, is it you know perceived wrongly, or what is it that the KPs who are there and who are not left Kashmir, should do? And then we'll talk about the PM package employees.
Well, and actually, that sets the basis for my thinking for everybody. I said it the last time also. I'll again repeat it. I have the highest regard and respect for those people, the people who stayed back, the people who actually ended up there. I grant you, some people left because they felt like they had no choices. They were afraid the, whether outside was worse than what they were here. But by and large, the people who stayed back stayed back because They really loved the place, and the number was really much bigger. Number was not what it is today. Number was more like in 1996 when they did the IB did a review before the civilian government of Dr. Farooq Abdullah came into. They said there was almost 18,000 Kashmiri Pandit living there. 18,000. So I believe that 18,000 may even have been undercounted. In other words, out of the 300 or so population, I would say it was more like well, 1990 was more like 30,000, but by 1996 it had dwindled down to 18,000. And in my mind, they were all there primarily because they wanted to stay there. They wanted to stay in the land of their fathers and forefathers. They wanted to stay closer to their religious places. We had all religious places. Somebody would go to Zitur every week. Somebody would go to Tulmul. Somebody would go. They had all shrines, which were at different places, and that brought them closer to their conscience. That brought them closer to their own religion, their faith. So I have a really great admiration and respect for them. Now, how did that 18,000 number shrink down? There's only one reason, and that was economic deprivation. They were economically deprived from, getting income. I mean, I don't know whether I talked it last time, but when I first time made a trip to Kashmir, which was I think 2000, I don't know, 5 or 6. I mean, there were langars going on where some of the families were eating at either at Gurdwara or at a Sufi shrine because they couldn't afford a meal otherwise. I mean, so you have to understand how strongly they felt about staying there, in spite of the fact they didn't know where their next meal was coming from. So they are men and women of immense faith. I mean, I went this time. I went to. It was RK Bhatt runs a RK Bhatt Jammu runs a has a temple near Dur near Verinag. I went there because I have contributed to the temple all that. But anyway, I went there. I wanted to see the place, and it is being sort of preserved by a husband-wife team who are the only ones living among Kashmiri Pandits in that area. I mean, I really got down and I cried and gave that lady a big hug, and I said, you are my heroine, you are my star, because there you are, because of the faith that you are next to the temple. They live a few miles from the temple, but basically they take care of it, and as a Shiv Mandir, and that was the mandir where, by the way, they burnt after the Barbary Masjid. They burnt their dharmsala by these hooligans, and eventually they had to actually remove the shivling and bury it in the underground to save it. And the fellow who did it actually was a Muslim gentleman, and he basically then it was brought out and then put back into the mandir during the safe time. So this is a very special class of people. You can't confuse them with somebody making, with a package of 100 crores or 10 crores or 1 crore in Delhi or Bombay or Pune or whatever. You cannot compare them. This is incomparable. Their indomitable spirit is of special variety, and you if you are not matching them, you have to salute to them, and I salute to them. So the only reason in my mind that they were leaving then was the economic reasons. Now remember, against that backdrop, you had mass massacres. I mean, we have had five uh, Kashmiri Pandit killings in the last 2 years, and plus two more attempts that were made. One was on Sandeep Nawa, and the other one was on Bal Krishnji in Chottagam. But the fact is, which didn't succeed. So five. But now go back to Nadimarg, go back to Vandama. I mean, we had children, we had men, we had women, all were wiped out. I mean, you think that didn't that would have been kind of, they would have been stoic and they would not have felt this the pain and the fear of what is happening going to happen to us if they come and basically, I mean, those were jihad. That was jihad. When you are going in a bus from Gul to Ramband, and somebody says, "Who are the pundits here? Get down. I need to talk to you." And you bring down the pundit, and then you shoot all of them dead. Now that is there's no if and but about those kind of things. And so you have that, so that is the message that you have. But by the same token, these people survived. I mean, I'm sure some families left, but these people survived. They survived in spite of Nadimar. In spite of, in spite of other massacres that took place, Sagrampura. They survived. So, what is driving them? Then, what is so different about today that even with 4 or 5 killings, they feel a great sense of fear? You have to blame it on the social media. I mean, they are bombarded every day by the social media about, get out, you dirty people, you still staying in Kashmir, get out, don't stay over. And you know who those people are. You know who those people are who are basically demanding all Kashmiri Pandits to leave the valley. So you have that situation on the ground. You have all this social media, bakwas coming through. So people can't, people are human. They feel that, am I doing the right thing by staying around? Is it wrong to think? But if you look at against the backdrop of what has happened to the community in the past, and this persisted, and the only difference between then and today is the social media impact. So you can understand why these people are having these second thoughts. But I
It's very
believe,
ironic. I mean, I know people who have gone back and they have bought houses and plots in Srinagar, at least I know,
yeah,
and places
mhm,
around Srinagar,
yeah,
and they have started to live there. And at the
yeah.
same time, there's a set of pundits who is now skeptical whether they should
Well, because
continue living there or leave. Right?
because quite honestly, as I said, I think it's a it's not, there's no simple answer to these kind of questions. I mean, I talk to the people who are coming back. They really do believe genuinely that there's some degree some violence going on, but honestly, they are not convinced the violence against Kashmiri Pandit is necessarily driven by the fact right now, the current phase. I'm
Right.
distinguishing this current phase from the old phase. But again, I think there's a responsibility among Kashmiri Pandit community itself, which is on the outside, to think about
I'll just share one
all the
very
things you do, how it will impact the psyche of the people. And let's be honest, there is a group of Kashmiri Pandits outside who is determined that nobody should stay there. And it's a shame because they don't understand. There's nobody going to give you, that heaven, the Jannat that you are looking for in Kashmir. This is it. Whatever is there is there. We don't have the strength, capability, or possibility of anything happening other than whatever we have right now, and the people who will come back.
I'll share a very interesting conversation I had with a friend of mine who's a Kashmiri Pandit. He is a journalist and he went back and started living in Kashmir some 7, 8 years back. And he was in Bombay. He was working as a journalist in Bombay. Uh, so when one of these killings happened, one Kashmiri Pandit was martyred. I called him up. I mean, I was worried about many of my friends were there, Kashmiri Pandits especially. So I called up a couple of my cousins. I called up this friend of mine, and this guy was so furious on the call. He said, each one of us is going to get killed. I'm going to repeat verbatim, what he said is, एक एक को मारेंगे हमें, चुन चुन के हम सबको मारेंगे. मैं बोला क्यों अभी तक तो you never sounded so despondent, you never sounded so this thing, why today? Saying, I said, why do you think so? He said, नहीं, अब तो हमको किसी को नहीं छोड़ेंगे. हम पिछले 12 साल से एक एक करके हम वापस आए. मैं जैसे वापस आया ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग वापस आए. पीएम पैकेज में लोग जो वापस आए, जो यहाँ पे रह रहे थे, हम अब यहाँ पे एक नॉर्मल जिंदगी जीने की कोशिश में लगे थे. हमने धीरे-धीरे अपना जो लाइफ़स्टाइल, अपना कल्चर वापस हमने बिल्ड अप करना चालू किया था. अब हमने वो जो जन्माष्टमी पे हम यहाँ पे झांकी निकाल रहे हैं, हम यहाँ पे मंदिर मंदिर खोल रहे हैं, मंदिर बना रहे हैं, अपना पुराना वक्त हम वापस लाने की कोशिश करें. क्योंकि अगर हमने इफ वी हैव चोजन टू लिव हियर, वी वांट टू लिव द ओल्ड वे, वी वांट टू लिव लाइक अ पंडित, अ गुड डिसेंट लाइफ. बट इसे इनकी दो तीन चीजें जो हुई, एक तो जो कश्मीर फाइल्स आई अननेसेसरली, दूसरा जो ट्रिगर था वो जो दैट यू नो दैट रूल फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट दैट यू कैन रिक्लेम योर
Web portal, web portal. Let's put it.
web
This is
portal.
yeah, web portal.
Yeah, web portal. He said those two, three triggers is what made the situation hell for us.
Yeah. Well,
So
that is something I have also heard, and I spoke about it last time.
and this
They
is from
talked
a
about
Kashmiri who's living there. I mean, so Dr. Saab, I mean, in both the cases, for the Pandits who are living there, we talked about them, and now the Kashmiri Pandit, PM package employees. What should they be doing now? I mean, should they be leaving? Completely leaving their jobs and doing another mass exodus and leaving Kashmir forever, or should they be continuing their jobs, or should I mean there is although everybody is telling them there's a general consensus that you continue your struggle and you demand relocation. That is what it looks like on the surface, but is that the solution?
Well, let me tell you. I mean, I have the SRO 412 that came out at that time, and SRO 412 was a cabinet level decision. But before that, let's look at a sequence. The first one was actually the report from the Parliament. It's on my website if anybody wants to see it. This was the one that Rajendra Premiji also spoke about, which was in February 2009, where they basically made a appeal. It was interesting. Actually, their majority of their appeal of the parliament was towards the Kashmiri Pandits who never left the place. They recognize they are living in a pathetic conditions. They need help, and of course that part didn't really work through. But they did talk about how we need to get these some of these people who are outside to get jobs. So essentially, as I'm looking at the document, there was a order done by the government on 2009, which is the dated October the 1st, 2009, and it says this is the government of Jammu and Kashmir's order. It says Honorable Prime Minister's package for return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri migrants in Kashmir Valley. That was the part that Rajendra ji didn't mention, that actually all that was in Kashmir Valley. Now, the fact is, after that, the cabinet, which was Omar Abdullah's cabinet, that took a decision, and they were categorical when the SRO came out. I mean, they said the appointment, and I'll quote this: the appointee shall have to execute the agreement with the government of India on the form that he will serve in the valley against the post on which he is appointed at a place where he will be posted. In the case the appointee migrates from the valley again for any reason whatsoever, he will lose that job without any notice and shall stand terminated. Then after that, they had also the bond. They included the bond in that was part of the cabinet decision, and that's again. I'm not going to repeat the words again, but basically that's very categoric that this is a contract. You are knowingly signing this contract, knowing that you will not be allowed. These jobs are not transferable. You will be staying essentially wherever you are accepted job, and if you don't want the job, you should then think about whether you want to take this job or not. So what I'm saying is that essentially uh, the demand for relocation is really a childish demand, in as much as it's a serious demand, in the sense it captures the feelings of the people. Yes, it captures the feeling of the people. They don't want to go back because they feel sense of security. But you cannot change a contract. This is a, I mean, if tomorrow you start doing these kind of things, then anybody can say, well, I'm going to go on a dharna and I'm going to change the contract, whether the contract is between the government and the people, or government and employees, or private sector, or whatever. I mean, it will set precedents that you cannot believe. So you cannot, this is almost like the same thing, like some people asking for, special land for Kashmiri Pandits only for so many lakh people and all that. I mean, these things are not possible. So you keep saying that because it's convenient to say, and it conveys a message. I agree, it conveys a message that we are fed up with what's going on. I fully sympathetic to that. But this demand is not going to be implementable. So anybody thinking and getting into under the opinion and advice of other people saying that you hold on, it will happen. It's not going to happen, because it's not a question of only they will be easy on this one. It's a question of it will question any other contract in the future. I mean, we have a Supreme Court, we have court system. Court system will determine what they will do. Now, as far as the Prime Minister's package employees are concerned, yes, I am in touch with them. I am not in touch with the so-called all migrant association in Jammu. I am in touch with the two organizations which are in Srinagar, in the valley, not just Srinagar, but in the valley, all party uh, as against all migrant PM package employees, all party, and then the other one is also a similar organization which is called Prime Minister's Package Group. Uh, I have great respect for them. I mean, they chose to stay in the valley. In my opinion, they are trying to. They are very brave people. They are very brave people. That I will tell you. They are without question and hesitation. Whether they join today, tomorrow, or don't join, they are very brave people. Uh, at the same time, I also found in them tremendous reasons. I asked every one of them, "Why are you staying?" Without exception, they said, "Because this is my land. I'm not going to leave here just because I'm having a problem of the day. I have to find a solution here. I have to find a solution here." I said, "What about the people in Jammu and elsewhere?" They said, "Well, they're already under influence of other people." And I said, "Where is the number bigger?" He said, "No, no, the number bigger is there. There are a majority of people are over there. But the fact is, we have to find a solution here." And I couldn't find fault with that thinking. That at the end of the day, there's a famous say, in the democracies, all solutions, all problems are local. You cannot solve them basically sitting 200 kilometers away or whatever. You cannot solve them by threatening people and things like that. You have to find a way to get to find a solution through the system over there. So I see a great. So they asked me, how do you see? What do you see? I mean, if location is not the way, what do we do? I said, location could be also a way. You just have to challenge the order in a court. You can't challenge by calling galis to LG or Ducom or whatever. You have to go and challenge it in the court, saying this is not fair to us. And I tell you, this is an unfortunate part when some of them went to get legal help from the community members. Or they were giving them genocide bill. I mean, that is not a solution to the problem, which is hey, we feel this contract we have bond this contract we have signed is unfair. I mean, that is what the legal challenge should be, not here's the genocide bill and take it. So that has not happened. But I will tell you, there's also a higher proportion. As I said, I am skeptic whether legally they will accept it, because they know it creates a precedence which will have far greater implications in the future for any government job anywhere in the country. That you can walk out of you can walk out of a contract. It doesn't matter what the contract says, but if you can walk out of one contract, then you have opened the door. But I will tell you, there was actually a document that was sent by a department which said that in the future, and this is dated February 2nd, 2015. It says the supernumerary posts shall get abolished once the appointee is prompted and adjusted against any post on the regular budget. In other words, if he crosses into the regular budget. And if he is appointed under that package to that level, then he will be basically removed from the restrictions of whatever the restrictions were. Now, as I'm told, this came out as I said, on the February 2nd, 2015. There was subsequently a order issued by the uh, GAD, which said that well, this order was done without the preemptive approval of various departments and is kind of null and void. I would argue, Rakeshji, that there are probably many orders in the state of Jammu and Kashmir with a unique style of governance, where a lot of orders have been executed without preemptive approval from other government agencies. So what I'm thinking is, right now there is probably a legal recourse for these people, and that is basically to enforce this agreement that was signed by the undersecretary of the government revenue department, and it will require, though I'll tell you, it will require some senior Kashmiri Pandit bureaucrats level of chief secretary or additional secretary, that level, to come together in a meeting, and perhaps TRN could bring them and ask them that we need to create a defense. The defense being, there are exceptions to that rule, that Kashmir government has done decisions, has announced decisions which were not precursorily approved by the respective departments, so that we will say that there is a precedence. This is not a first time that was done. So the excuse that you are offering, Mr. Shailendra Kumar, who is the additional secretary to the government, is not is it's not an exceptional thing. So you are asking argument that this was done without the pre-approval of various departments. I would argue that is not a first time. We have done it in the past, and they have not been challenged. And you are now making a challenge because you obviously don't want to implement that rule. I think that is the single biggest, to me, that is the single clearest way. And this will have to be played in the legal courts, and it will have to be done. Quite frankly, Kashmiri Pandit, I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit, quite frankly, sad about the Kashmiri Pandit lawyers not really helping these people, and or whosoever is helping, the husband wife team, they are giving them wrong set of documents. I think they need real legal advice without political agenda, to see what the way forward is. My view is there is precedence where there have been there have been orders implemented which didn't have a pre-approval from various departments, and it would be to the benefit if Kashmiri Pandit senior members can come and talk about some of their experiences, and perhaps we can build a case on that basis and go to the courts and say this is not an exception. This was done in the past. Government should, on the basis of the fact that if there are openings in the regular cadre jobs, these people are entitled to apply for them. And if they get accepted, then they will basically be relieved of their obligation under the supernumerary rules.
So, Dr. Saab, I mean, I'm sure the way forward that you suggested, we all kind of concur with that. Uh, I mean, that is the logical way to go about it. Uh, but uh, you know, there are a lot of people who don't say it, openly, but in closed room conversations, when people talk about PM package, there are different, different views on that. Some people start blaming, we had warned them. Why did they go? They are. This is their own choosing. Uh, the other people say, why uh, when they leave now today, then what will be left of us in Kashmir, because they had started building our presence in Kashmir, the Pandit presence, we were reclaiming our roots. Then there are people who say, we need to take a middle path. These are two extremes, that we continue to stay there and be the sitting ducks out there, or the other extreme is that we leave lock, stock, barrel, and we are totally out of Kashmir, so our presence is totally zero in Kashmir. Then there is a middle path, which is, you know, okay, the situation is bad, the security scenario is bad, so let's take a step towards, building a bit of confidence in them, and there can be ways of doing it. So we can build pressure on government and administration that you create a secure environment for them. In fact, a comment here, which I'm flashing right now on the screen, and this person has been he's anonymously writing comments, but it looks like he's from the PM package, and he's saying the administration should be at least creating a secure environment for working by providing secure accommodation, secure workplaces, and nearby places. So this can be a middle path, as an interim solution that can be worked out. So uh, again, I mean, there is no uh, direct solution or a straightforward solution to this, but the way the logical solution that you suggested, that they have the legal recourse option available. The right set of lawyers should come forward and help them. But again, I mean, the question there is, if let's say, assuming hypothetically that they are allowed to leave Kashmir and they are relocated to outside of Kashmir, then what will be left of us, in Kashmir? Our presence will be totally zero. Is that a desirable situation to be in?
Well, I mean, obviously not. Let me make a point here. As back as when the packages were being discussed, 2004, 2005, 2006, and eventually 2008. One of the points I used to make, and you one can go to my website and see that. One of the points I was to make, I was absolutely against this package being a separate package. I wanted this package to be part of the state budget, and I basically sought those words. I said this should be part of the state budget. The head count should be part of the state head count of government employees, and it should be the. But most not everybody else, everybody from the community did not agree with me. All the leaders at that time, because their point of view was, Vijay, you know that these Muslims will never give us anything. So why are you asking this money should be part of the state budget? If it's a separate line from Prime Minister's package, standalone line, then we know at least there is some kind of a trail on this. That and I would argue that listen, it's not going to be dispersed by anybody else better than the state. State will have a hand in it, and it will distribute them. So don't ask for this. But people were so keen to, I'm not saying they necessarily were ill-meaning, but they didn't have the vision to understand that by creating a budget line which is below the state budget, you are actually emotionally, physically, and politically isolating Kashmiri Pandits from rest of the valley. And so it was very easy for them to prepare this SRO 412 because it fitted all those domains. So I would say, Umar Abdullah, I lost a lot of faith in him. I had good relations with him. He became the chief minister on 5th of January, 1999, and I actually saw him on the 8th in Srinagar, along with, you mentioned Sanjayji Tiku and another gentleman from HWSK, Motilal Bhatt. So we met him. We met Khurshid Ganai. We met Aslam Wani. क्या थे Ravinder Rana. Rana, Ravinder Rana. They were all in the same pack, and he promised that he's going to help. He's going to do this. He's going to do that for Kashmiri Pandits. And of course, as I traveled with them along the path, I found out he is least interested. And then I think the most funny thing was when he held the Apex meeting a few years later, and basically told me later, Sazawal साहब क्या कह रहे हैं आप, ये तो आपस में लड़ाई करते. They were fighting in the room between various KP leaders and all that stuff. So you had a really very unsympathetic man as the chief minister when SRO 412 was done. That's my point. My point is he was not a good person to be on your side. But that's the tragedy. People didn't realize that was a result of the fact that we had asked for a line separate from the state budget. Now, where are we today, and what should these people, what do we do with the class of people that are essentially there and all that? And I mean, people have to understand. We used to have this slogan in the old days by this organization which save Kashmir, save Kashmiri Pandits to save India. Well, if that were the slogan done, I will tell you there will be at least 1,000 other slogans similar in different parts of the country, where so many indigenous tribes are disappearing. They're saying every 10 years one indigenous tribe of India disappears. There's basically they die. Uh, uh, there were 10,000, 20,000 before. They are now down to 1,000, something like that. So it's not unique in the overall mosaic of India. So if somebody is still saying, well, Kashmir is my heart and soul, it's the heart and soul of Hindu religion, I think you have to feel thankful, not proud, not smarts. Be okay, but be thankful, because at least they are still thinking that Kashmiri Pandit has a place in Kashmir. So for us to threaten anybody that we will leave if you don't do it my way or highway, it doesn't it won't work, because there is no place for us outside. Okay, unless right now we are being used by this Jammu right wing group of Sharma ji, and he's up to his ears, and disgraceful. It's disgraceful to deal with a guy like that. Quite honestly, our community should have its own strength to speak on its own terms without bringing somebody from other places in our picture. Now, of course, we're also grateful to the Jammu people that they have given us a place, but he certainly doesn't represent that Jammu. That Jammu is represented by other people, and but the fact is, there is no other place for us except in Kashmir. We have to see, even when people talk about we should have our own land and all that, but people forget that when you are building a house in a place, all you need to do is you need to go up to the municipality and get the clearances and all that. That's all between you and a certain agency of the government. Okay, it's very simple. But when you tell somebody that I want to build a factory, I'm going, I need 300 acres. I want to build a factory. Okay, it's not anymore between Mr. Tata and the government. Now you have to do environmental statements. You have to do inter-community relations. You have to do so many different local regulations and rules that you have to involve the local people. If you don't have the support of the local people, it's not going to happen. I mean, Tata, with all their power, when they were trying to put up a factory in West Bengal, okay, and the public resented it, didn't allow it. It didn't happen. So you have to understand. People have to understand, when you are asking for something which is beyond what is one person's request. You're asking for the community. You, by definition, have to define it within the concept of inter-community relations. There has to be other community involved in that discussion. So these people think somehow, Amit Shah is going to sign a document in Delhi saying, I define 400 acres of land east or west or north or south of Vitesta, and that's all for Kashmiri Pandits. Well, even if he does it, which is remote, but the fact is it cannot be implemented. I mean, we are a country of nation of laws. I mean, India is a nation of laws. You can't just carve. I mean, there will be hangama. There will be public will be has to be involved. So there has to be an inter-community dialogue, and that's one of the key elements of essentially any successful. If you want to see a perception of security, by definition, you have to involve inter-community dialogue, and you can put them on the back foot by saying it is your responsibility to find these OGWs for us, because as long as OGWs are around, we are not secure here. And I don't think you will see any Muslim saying that's not true. But they will say, "Oh, we don't. I don't know who that is and all that." Well, there are. I don't want to go into techniques, but there are techniques in which they can get involved much more and be in a position to do it. Right now, for example, let me tell you one thing. FIRs. I've been pleading with these people in Srinagar that or employees get the FIRs of every one of those Kashmiri Pandits who has been killed. One fellow said, "Why? Why does it matter anymore? He's dead." I said, "You know what? When Bitta Karate killed Kashmiri Pandits, and he said on public 23 or whatever number he killed, people were always wondering how come he is not then charged with those, because nobody saw the FIR. The FIR was filed by NC, National Conference, JKNC, and the FIR says he has been arrested for public nuisance. Okay, so it was up to Farooq Abdullah, after 10, 12 years of his jailing, say, "Arey Baba, isko chhod do. His charge is only he has been a public nuisance. He made public this thing, and 12, 15 years is good enough time. So let him do." So that's how he was released. So what I'm telling Kashmiri Pandits is, go and find the FIRs, see if they are properly filed. Make sure that they do recognize that Sushilji would not have been killed in Sotagam if somebody would not have picked up the phone and called somebody else to say, "Hey, Tima drive to the Pintuji, Tima drive." They are heading towards their orchards. Somebody has called. Now, I talked to the police. They said, "Sir, there are no witnesses. Nobody comes forward." I said, "Listen, if we have to get the witnesses, there are ways." And again, I won't go into the discussion that we had with him. He agreed at the end. Yes, if we want to do it, but there is no pressure coming. We want accountability of those murders. We want to know. And a lot of people tell me, in fact, police told me, "Are you ready for some of the nasty things that will come out of some of these?" and I said, well, community has to be prepared. They want to know the answer. So it may not put the victim in the best light, but they must know the answer, because that's the only way you can solve these can you subside the fear in the people. So what I'm saying is, yes, the fear is real, but other than them expressing that fear, they're really not doing much in terms of, I'm saying there are three commitments I think they have to make. One is they have to ask for full accountability of the murders that have taken place, of the assassinations. They have to locate the FIRs. They have to make sure the FIRs are filed correctly. They have all the information that is necessary, and they need a follow up every month, every week. I don't know, to see what the progress is made. The second thing is they have to be talking to the government in a civil tone. You can't threaten the government of India. You cannot threaten the government of Jammu and Kashmir. This is not a child's play. You have to have. This is a nation of laws. This is not a nation of good deeds. Flag is flying. You can say, doesn't that happen? Of course it does, but that's not the norm. The norm is we have to deal it in a rational, normal way. And the third one is you have to have intercommunity dialogue. You cannot be, and this has to be at the local level. It has to be at the district level. It has to be even at Thottagam, Gunpura. I mean, it has to be on that level where people actually talk about things, recognize the threats, and Muslims take ownership to some of the issues dealing with security.
Uh, Dr. Saab, Ashok Manwati ji has posted a question saying, deep state involvement and accountability, are they not contradictory?
No, I don't see involvement and accountability being contradictory. I mean, involvement. I mean, accountability means that you have to essentially tell the process where it is. Now you have to understand. I went into great length in the last meeting to talk about how Jamaat Islami people infiltrated the system, and so essentially you are dealing with a lot of inertia. I mean, there will be a lot of lip service to Kashmiri Pandits by Kashmiri Muslims. Let's recognize that. And many of them will give you all kinds of excuses. I just gave you some right now, where they say, well, we don't find witnesses and all that. But the fact is, you have to be involved to get accountability. You cannot get accountability without. I mean, who is going? I mean, at the end of the day, again, let me repeat: government has millions of issues every day. I mean, every community is supposed to be taking care of itself. That's how the democracies work. Now, if we were in an autocratic system where Maharaja Hari Singh was there, okay, you got 5 minutes with Maharaja Hari Singh, man, the problem is solved. Okay, that era is gone. We are now and especially now we are not even in a good book. So we have to really create our own environment to have essentially a say, and we have to be involved. I'm sorry to say, you will not get accountability unless you are not involved, because they will not. They will offer excuse. No, let me give you an example. I mean, full of examples, but let me give you an example, real example. Has somebody thought why Prime Minister's package construction of these transit homes was going slow? They were approved. They were approved in 2008, 2010, and certainly hardly many were built. And what was happening? What was happening was one of the rules the bureaucrats put in, and I must say, a lot of it goes to the whatever the disaster management, blah blah blah, whatever that DMMM is title is. They decided that the land will be procured from private enterprise. And why did they do that? They did that because they thought that's how they're going to milk the system. They're going to tell 10 guys, are you interested in giving land to us at 2 crores? He says, yeah. Well, how much am I getting? So I'll get the best deal. I will give you the offer. So, and then of course we had the Sardarji who came in, as DMM says. He said, a lot of Sardarjis have left the land in Kashmir, and this is a good time as any to get that land released. And so Baramulla Wagara, that land was all from Sardarjis, and he's pocketing whatever whatever percentage he's pocketing. So that was the rule at that time. So that's why they were spending more time in haggling the black money than finishing the job. Then eventually, what happened was that that when BVR Subramaniam became the chief secretary, he said, no, 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 this is not what the prime minister wants. Prime minister wants the fast track, and the only way we can get a fast track is this has to be government land. So the whole program was changed. This is government land, and that's why you have now a timetable when they will finish. Now, one of the advice I am giving to the PM package employees, you make sure somebody has to follow. So you talk about involvement and accountability. Somebody has to follow whether they will keep the construction schedule or not. You have got to have a once a month meeting with the DivCom, once a month or sooner meetings with DC in your district, and you have to make sure that whatever promises they have made in terms of the construction. But most input that I'm getting right now is that since this land deal was settled, the construction is actually going at a much better rate. And in fact, some of the places like Baramulla and all that, they will actually with one another. They will actually have some of the construction on the schedule. But that's again, if you don't involve in that kind of thing, you're not going. Nobody is going to look after you because hey, you promised me on this day. You can have a press release saying 100 things. But the fact is, at the end of it, Kashmiri Pandits have been given an opportunity, have been provided a schedule, set the feet to the fire of these people who are basically organizing and managing the construction schedule. Why are you feeling falling behind? What is the reason? This contractor is not doing job. Go and probe that contractor. And they're having a. I mean, that's how the civil society in other societies, even in India, work. They take care of their own. We
Brilliant,
want
brilliant.
our
I
society
totally agree with you, Dr. Saab, on this. Uh, Actually, there is the Ashok Manoti ji who has posted a comment, and I would like to answer this comment with your permission. So he says, so is this then the KPs have themselves to struggle and snatch accountability? If yes, how should KP leadership organize itself and come up to the expectations of the whole community? So I would like to say something on this. I used to be a regular in the meetings of a KP organization, and whenever we used to get into the meeting room, we would ease ourselves into the chairs, and then this would not look like a meeting. I mean, all of them came from very good positions. They would be, directors or CEOs in the companies. They would run their own businesses, but there, when they would come with a very different mindset. I mean, we had some points in the agenda to discuss, and they would discuss everything else but those points. And then they would bring in their egos. They would, you know uh, uh, throw invectives at each other. It would get so disturbing for me. I mean, at one point I thought, I will just stop going. But then I was involved on the cultural side, so there was a cultural event coming, and I didn't want to leave it in the middle. So one day I called up the president and I said, I need a whiteboard in the room, and a marker. And he got it. So they put up a whiteboard. I came in. I said, I want to take charge today. I was very young then. I mean, this is some 10 years back. I said, uh, this is how when I go into a meeting in my office, this is what I do. I put down the agenda points to discuss. I put down the time. I mean, even if you extend by 5 minutes, you know what crisis it is.
like
People are waiting outside to get into the meeting room, and you have another meeting lined up. So I have this 1 hour. We have these points. We will discuss around these points, and then I started discussing one by one. I started putting the action items on the board, and the meeting was done in 1 hour. We had clear action plan, action points on the table, right? So, but in our case, I mean, even if you take this PM package example, there are these great men, great organizations, great associations. They are coming out with statements, they are with the press releases, and when they go, even if they go on ground, they make very vague, loose statements. But they're not coming together in one room like this, putting down the agenda, drawing out an action plan, a common charter, and then assigning responsibilities and then following up. I mean, essentially what you talked about, right? They take own up the responsibility and the accountability, and then they follow up on those items. It is as easy as that. I mean, it is no rocket science. But this is probably the problem that we have inherently. I mean,
well, let me tell you, Rakesh ji, I actually tried this experiment in again '97. We said, these leaders are not getting unified in one. Oh, okay, we didn't have any business leaders there. This was all political people. We said we are not we're not going to sort of have the leading is not useful here because they're all grandstanding. So let's take them out of the country. So we arranged this meeting in London,
Okay.
and we invited all the parties there. And I will.
When was that? Which year?
This meeting was held June 18 through 21, 1997. So I'll read the names of the people.
Okay.
A.N. Vaishnavi, President, all State Kashmir Pandit Conference. The President of Kashmir Pandit Sabha, Mr. Trilokinath Khosa, Kashmir Samiti Delhi, Shri Goddu Saab, and Pan Kashmir from Jammu, Dr. Chaudhary, who was later disclaimed by them, but anyway, he attended the meeting. Pan Kashmir Movement, Shri Ashwani Shanguji, then KOA, then the KPAE, their association, then all over Indo-European, Indo-Canadian, and Indo-American Kashmir Forum. And we had also asked Hedinath Jattuji to come, but somehow his invitation got lost, and so he immediately issued a press release saying this meeting has been engineered by Farooq Abdullah and it's against me and all that stuff. But we got all these groups, people there. So we had a 2-day discussion, and after the discussion, we Shri Amarnathji was selected as the president. I'll tell you a very interesting thing. People fought very hard. There were people in there very hard that KL Chaudhary should not become president, because that was the leaning of the group, quite honestly. But it's so strange because he had come as a Pan Kashmir representative. He didn't realize it at that time, but already Pan Kashmir had released a thing that we have changed our mind. He's not our representative at the meeting. But anyway, he came. So they were leaning towards him because of his nature of his evolution. But then Sri Amarnath Vaishnavi was made president, and the fellow who was most vocal about it, again, I'm not knowing him. After that, he turns around and says to me after the thing, he says, "Can I talk to you outside?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Vijay Saab, now you are the one who has got to lead us, because Vaishnavi ji is rather a sort of a senior citizen, and we need dynamism and all that." I said, "Well, we had thought about, why should." He said, "No, let's not talk about what has happened. Vaishnavi ji is going to be the face, but somebody else has got to be running this." And anyway, we came back. We said, "What is the agenda?" They laid out the agenda. They said, "We'll do this, this, this." They said it will cost money, and we said, "We'll at the beginning, offer, overseas associations will contribute something and get this thing going." They said, "Demonstration, agar iska demonstration karo to lagan 50,000 rupees वगैरह those days, 97." And so we did those kind of things. But the fact is that the group, and they call it Kashmir Pandit Political Steering Committee, KPPSC, and the fact is they did do 2-3 programs until the money dried out, because one of the processes was that they will actually go to the community and seek support, because this was a unified front, and seek support from. And we had already agreed. I had met the Mundonos. I.K. Gujral was the prime minister. I met Gujral. I explained to him this group. He thought this was a wonderful idea. You people all got together. That's a great thing. And I'm expecting that somebody will visit me in Delhi, and we'll talk about it. I said, I think our president and the chief political affairs director, Dr. Chaudhary, will probably visit you very soon. But the group got sort of self-destructed because of the fissures within the various leaders. So I have tried, Rohit, Rakesh, everything. It just is not possible in this community to get that sense of unity. Ever since then, quite honestly, I said, I turned the logic around. I said, I don't think at the end of the day, we have such huge problems. Even a unity platform is not good enough for us. That will not do anything. I mean, Amit Shahji, mark his words. He said, "You guys don't have a political footprint. Even if Muslims don't succeed in elections, but they have a political footprint because they vote and they identify with the local area, with the local constituency. You guys don't." And of course, we later found out, people think filling from M-form is a bothersome thing. So it's a very unique set where we are essentially not seen as a political entity, but yet we are demanding political rights. We're not doing anything in terms of political. We support this party, that party, and all that, but we don't really do KP identification of our own self. But we demand our rights as a Kashmiri people. It's a contradiction,
Correct.
and I don't know whether your listeners will realize that, or they will again send excuses in their minds or outside as to why what's going on. It's my right to vote for anybody. Okay, it's your right to vote for anybody, but democracy works by through a certain political processes. And our case, if you ask me, how can we further our case? Our case is more like, quite honestly, more like you would think, Ambanis are so powerful, politically so powerful, but they have the, as an individual, I'm sure, Ambani brothers, they have their own political identification. They vote whosoever they vote for, they and support whichever party they vote for. But organization doesn't have a political footprint because technically it's not supposed to have a political footprint. It's the party which is. So actually, we are closer. I mean, of course, they are in mega numbers, but I'm just saying is we are actually the same. Our community, even though it's a community, its identification is the same. It doesn't have any political footprint. So how do you solve a process of where you don't have a political footprint and yet you want to influence politics? And so this is how companies do. How do companies? They don't have any political footprint, but yet they have issues they want the politicians to resolve. And therein comes the concept of lobbying. You have to collect the money and you have to hire the lobbyists who will then walk the corridors of power in Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, basically along the Resina Road, left, right, whatever. And so my appeal to the people is, we are probably, as a community, quite honestly, in India, if I say, okay, number one are Parsis, number two are Jains, number three are Marwadis, number fourth maybe somebody else. I think we are fifth or sixth in terms of per capita wealth, Kashmiri Pandit community. As much as we have disparity, there are disparities in all communities. But the fact is, where we lack is we don't have a sense that if we want something to be done, we are people without a political footprint, and the only way without entities without footprint can work is through lobbying. So collect the money and get some professional lobbyists, let them run the rope. So even though Ambanis or Adnanis and all these Tatas, even though they are rich, they still use lobbyists because that is how you. I mean, you can talk to any minister at any time. He's not going to do anything for you because at the end of the day, he is not the one who is actually making the policy. The policy is made by the people with IAS, IPS, that kind of cadre, who are secretaries, additional secretaries, and all that, who are invisible. And that's where the lobbying power comes in. Unfortunately, our community has not matured to the point where actually some people who feel strongly about us. Nobody's doing anything for us. Hey, you could contribute, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. Somebody else could contribute. Make a course fund of about 15 crores and hire lobbyists. And of course, somebody will say, well, I'm better off building a temple or building a school or building a medical facility. Okay. So those are the kind of choices one have. But if you are really into politics, then think how the Indian polity works. And this is one of the biggest tragedies our community has. It has a lot of expectations, but quite frankly, it has no basis on which it's expecting anything.
Dr. Saab, I mean, we had such a interesting and engaging conversation. We didn't realize, we've already been into this conversation for 1 hour, almost 45 minutes, close
Wow.
to 2 hours. I mean, I'm not feeling like, ending the conversation, but probably we'll have another session. I still want to take 5 minutes. We'll end it in 5 minutes. Uh, First, I want to acknowledge the people who have stayed with us through these 2 hours, and they have been very interactive. I've been reading their comments, flashing some of the comments on the screen also. So I'll just read through the names: Sanjay Safaya, Yuvraj Rana, Murarji Kol, then Mark Sid. Uh, we had Vijay Kashkari, Ashok Manwati, Sanjay Safaya again. So lots of them. I mean, I thank all of them for staying with us, for being interactive, for listening to us. We had Sandeep Kumar Rana ji, Romi Rana, So a lot of people who stayed with us throughout these 2 hours. Dr. Saab, this was a very intense session. Okay, I don't want to end it. I want to end it on a light note. So let's switch to Kashmiri. Okay, I am also good at Kashmiri, and let's talk about something light. أسۍ کَرو تھوڑا کٲشِر پٲٹھۍ کَتھ تہٕ بہٕ یژھان چھُس زانُن تۄہہِ مُتلق مَرا تھوڑا سا تُہُنٛد لایکس ڈِسلایکس مےٚ ؤنۍتو تُہۍ کھٮ۪نَس منٛز کیٛاہ چھُو تۄہہِ پسنٛد کٲشرٮ۪و آیٹمو منٛز کیٛاہ چھُو پسنٛد تہٕ نان کٲشرٮ۪و آیٹمو منٛز کیٛاہ چھُو پسنٛد وِل گیٹ ٹُو نو مِس ڈاکٹر سزاوال مور
well,
other aspect.
اکھ tragedy چھِ کہِ وۄنۍ چھِ سٲری بنٲومٕتۍ vegetarian تیار أسۍ گٔے مارٕ. My wife, God bless her, as I said, we married for 52 years. She has become vegetarian. Now you have to understand.
I'm
Imagine,
going to
let me tell you. Could you imagine? Because you have to imagine my misery. When we got married, I scored an interview, not interview, but we were taken along by sorry, but you asked about hay fever. The I was I was the families met in Tulmul. So Tulmul was you know, I'm talking about 1968 born. And Tulmul was fences they check. So we had not met before, as you know, we had not seen each other, we had not done anything. So I'm telling myself, I got to ask a very good, important question or say something which will kind of shake that, I'm sort of a this thing. And whatever it was, my first question blurted out was, "So should meat come on, kinna?" Are you a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian? She said, I am a non-vegetarian, which is meat kama. Oh, then, as far as I'm concerned, this is this is a done deal. Now you can say the same person now, since our youngest daughter came out, with Ashitra Shur, the Sari Lakat Kur is of course now in 40s, mid 40s. So many vegetarian early age months. And Tajpatagao, my wife struggled. What should I do? And eventually she said, "No, I will also become a vegetarian." Tajpat Maharaj in terms of what are the likes and dislikes. So
non-veg منٛز کیٛاہ چھُو پسنٛد تۄہہِ چھُوا لیٚدُر لیٚدُر پسنٛد کِنہٕ وۄزُل وۄزُل روغن جوش
وۄزُل meat پسنٛد تہٕ لیٚدُر مژھ پسنٛد.
اچھا
I'm kind of binary there, which is دۄنوے چیٖز.
جاے کۄس چھو پسنٛد کٔشیٖرِ منٛز وُنہِ تہِ اگرے تُہۍ گژھان چھُو تۄہہِ چھُو دِل کران کہِ یور چھُ گژھُن ضروٗری مطلب
لۄکچارَس سۭتۍ ٲسۍ گژھان موسٹلی بِکاز مےٚ اوسُس فادرَس وَنان کہِ مےٚ چھُ پہلگام کران خۄش تٔمِس اوس کران خۄش گُلمرگ so أسۍ ٲسۍ کران پَتہٕ alternate between Gulmarg and Pahalgam and سُہ اوس کران بَڑٕ آوُٹ ڈور أسۍ ٲسۍ ٹینٹ وینٹ لگاوان گُلمرگہِ پہلگامَس منٛز اوس اَسہِ کَزنَن اوس تِمن دُکان تہٕ دُکانَس پٮ۪ٹھ کٔنۍ ٲسۍ تِمن جاے روزنہٕ خٲطرٕ پَتہٕ مگر later on پَتہٕ ییٚلہِ بہٕ خانٛدر کوٚرُکھ پَتہٕ then we started getting a hut. We would get a hut and stay there. But I tell you, other day this trip was کٲفی باغن مگر بہٕ گوٚوُس ویری ناگ. I don't know, ویری ناگ کوٚر مےٚ بَڑٕ خۄش. I mean, that was really very peaceful and تَتہِ چھُ باغ تہِ یِمو بَنومُت اَصٕل تیار یہِ چھُ I think this is from Shah Jahan. I think Shah Jahan has made that. I really thought that Subhag, if people are going to the valley who have not gone recently, I would strongly advise very nagachu that shanti and there's a piece of history there. Actually, Utrushu article Karan Singh aspect that the place, the garden I like the best. Karan Singh the article Indian Express is very nag, both very nag.
Okay.
Very nag spring also is on the garden. It was funny. Bugos Tandos, I think, Shurhimkin Sadhim October. And Traido Patpia that sheer. Bosu Tando, I was in my shorts and, with the short sleeve shirts. And Traido Patpia, somebody sent me a picture from there, Traido Patpia Tatishin. So, but Pahalgam, we used to, Puan Club is on us. सो तथ मज बड़ दादागिरी करान तिमन दोन सारे तिमन 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 छोलो विजिटर तिमन दोन एज वी यूज टू कॉल देम छोलो विजिटर नसनावान तिमन बहरस वन क्या वोन दसा वोन वोन ड्रिंक बनावन ये वोल पक लगाव नेसफ करो जो गिलास कर खड़ा बह लगाव बे पोन सत बह लगाव सो अस कर काफी खरलगी पहलगाम बड़ सह चलान सह हिसाब किताब वी हैड अ गुड जारान करान तप काफी जान it was because I was given a tour of this now place in Pelgam's bunch. It's really beautiful.
Was there?
Pelgam guest nahi Pelgam tourist
It's just no bane what's
it's a point was
Okay.
water comes
Okay.
it's got tremendous facilities and
Okay.
I always felt that you shouldn't istemal iman karna but yesterday I think yesterday or day before yesterday the government placed an order that they will actually have somebody private contractor manage it so it will go under a
Okay.
international brand name
Okay.
maybe Sheraton or Radisson or something like that um, school was CMSI school. It's funny because there was always a competition with the Burn Hall, and I don't know. I don't think I have told you this, but one of the interesting things at that time was since I left long time back, but recently most of the Jamaat Islami elites actually their children have all gone to Burn Hall. And
Okay.
so even though TRF Vagara press releases, this is all Burn Hall English, by the way. This is
Okay.
all Burn Hall English. And even Urdu Zaman pata hai. Halanki im sari claim kara sari Pakistan se na Urdu pad lekha na zanan Arabic im Angrez pad lekha because they are all Burn Hall students. One shouldn't take their press releases quite frankly seriously. Unfortunately, karaoke, their release comes out because these are all essentially woo aku zto very ladke trying to basically play games of thinking like that. I mean, to the point when Farooq Abdullah to answer you, yet killings ban deta hai, Article 370 wapas nahi. So everybody is
Mhm.
exploiting. These Burnhal English guys are also exploiting by issuing these nonsensical press releases, and
Correct.
and and Farooq Abdullah on the other end is on the politics side. But
Correct.
that rivalry used to be very much there, and that I understand that rivalry is still there in between the two. Actually, football game was also but Zabardast Rozan Tamsad Hangam. Now,
Correct.
I was always overweight, and that was one of the challenges I had because there was a lot of activities going on. So, they got to the point where they said, "Acha, Chakarakne, you will not do those hurdle jump because most of Putrawan hurdles." Sorry. I could not jump on them, and मेरे आसमान से जाके फुटा मगर बहुत फुट so they decided no he will be exempted from hurdle jump so they and people used to get mad because I says points Milan in the college if you know the CMS school you had
Correct.
4 houses and you would get points on various
Correct.
so I used to be very much sort of ridiculed for having lost some points because I was rejected for the hurdle race but that thing I still remember on there.
Film chu te wichan film no dostu te shok college times mas kashiri game memories keman
Well,
veterans
yes,
palladium
yes, yes,
palladium
yes.
legal
Yes, es is kazat mes पांच mes four cousins. Es is पांच I'm the only biological child of my parents. So
okay
es is four makan or your same identical looking houses as the whole family. So if you see Sazawal anywhere, you have to take it preemptively that he's from the same family that I am.
okay
By the way, I shows actual surname Tiku.
मैं जो तो इतनी सजावल अच्छा
Yeah,
रेसिशन इसना ऐसे
I
सरनेम
said,
बना
remember our ancestor was the one who's in Afghanistan go.
okay
So no one is many lining was Nafros. He ended up to be the collector of treasury. So it's basically
oh
Timchivanan, Pashto Asmachivanan. Actually, this research was done by Ripan. And them court them Pashto illicit cut them is Sazol Kago, them collector of treasuries. So
अच्छा अच्छा
first,
okay
so
okay
ये सो वापस आओ नफर वापस आओ श्रीनगर तमसे बना तिक्कू सजोल and somewhere along the line Tikku dropped out.
oh
My
okay okay
father कर बड़ा कोशिश to bring back the family name of Tikku. Magar it was resisted by hey Manchuka Chika which Seri Rana Sazol we would drop. But my dad used to write Tikku Sazal all his life. on on it's a rubber stamp was the bananas there. So Tiku Sazawal. So he would do like this. He would do it that way. So I'm sorry. Your question was
क्वेश्चन उसमें तो फिल्म इसमें वचान
yeah.
तो इसमें गसान
So
जो
so
फिल्म
SSN 4 makan. So
Palladium Legal
अच्छा ऐसे ऐसे तमाम
Kiras
उनके फुट ब्रिज बनो तैयार लाल मंडी क्रॉस करने खतर तम साथ वो फुट ब्रिज तम साथ ऐसे नहीं रोजान so essentially to cross over to go to the America side ऐसे निवान नहीं ये बोट ऐसे निवान नाइमस तराने सा पूरी तो मगर रिस्क और अगर का रिश्तेदार ये ऐसे सारी बेसिकली ऐसे दौलत ऐसे सारी तो कुल टोटल so ऐसे सारी नाइमस करा ताल करा I can overall I cousin them which is you to the Akbajuk show was best was Akbajuk show. Akbajuk show
कहती का थिएटर्स में
Players.
Palladium अच्छा
Players. I think it was Jumbo in Casta film now. And Ilihara Ishai Wapas Chimara Seri Darawazas Nish Beat Rio under. The Kati School Seri Ura School. कोड एक cousin कोड एक डंडा वंडा लोग immediately doing back cousin one no Serbji I was called Serbji in my Serbji थे अलग इस बिचार सुनने मन चीज़ मज़ लगा हुआ कि तो अलग हम अंधी मार दे मन पीछे ये podcast कर so I used to get a lot of breaks, but we did that. We used to watch, especially Palladium and Regal. Amresh to said but Regal because these were the only three in our childhood. Palladium, of course, Palladium is right now. Touch Khutmud jungle. It's just the walls are there, and there's a big, huge forest trees are like growing inside the Palladium theater right now.
चलो हमारा डॉक्टर साहब बड़ मजा होता है इस तरह बात करे तो आई एम ते इनसाइट शेयर करियो मतलब they're very valuable people you see the reactions people are liking it and they have really appreciated your views and people are again demanding that we should continue these sessions so we'll see if your
I mean,
time permits.
I want to leave with at least this message: ki there is hope for people but us in Kashmir. Don't give up that hope. It is your motherland. It is the land where if you're not your parents met, your parents married. It's a land where your grandparents died. It's a place where your relics are there. You had a tradition of going to Tulmul. You had a tradition of going to Sharka Mata Sakrishwar. You had a tradition of going. This that cannot be paid. No matter how many temples you build outside, it is not the same thing. You don't get the same sense, the same vibe, the same feeling of divinity that you get when you go to these places. So don't give it up. We have to find ways. It's not that it's easy. It's easy for me to say it. Yeah, you can say, not what should be dur as the one lecture. But I'm telling you, we can find ways together. There can be ways. I illustrated some, there can be more. Somebody brighter than me may even have more ways to do it. But don't give up that hope. Kashmir is our motherland. It's our right to be back there, and we should be there as soon as possible. There will be distractions, but that is not should not be writing the script. The script should be how we went back and made our history in our own motherland. Thank you. Namaskar.
Awesome, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you. Thank you so much. Namaskar.